Good morning.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning, ma'am. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Very good morning to all of you. Okay, we have seen certain measures yesterday regarding the performance of the network. Can somebody list them out? List out the measures, performance of the, how do you measure the performance of the network?
Bandwidth, throughput,
Bandwidth in Hz.
Bandwidth. Okay, bandwidth in hertz. Then,
throughput,
yeah, bandwidth in. So you have two ways of measuring the
Bits
network.
per second. Bandwidth in bits per second.
bandwidth in bits per second.
One is like bandwidth in hertz and the other one is bits per second. Okay, right. Bandwidth in hertz, you will be measuring it in kilohertz or meg or like that. And bits per second, you will be saying in terms of how many bits per second, right? So what is bandwidth? What's the definition of bandwidth? I think I have given you a couple of definitions for bandwidth.
Range of
Okay.
Range of frequencies,
ma'am. Control
composite
can
signal.
be up to 6.
Okay, so that's one definition. What's the other one?
Range of frequencies a channel can pass.
Number of bits per second that a channel or a link can transmit.
Can transmit. Wonderful, good. What's the second measure of the network?
Throughput, ma'am.
It's a throughput, right? So can you give me the definition of throughput? Throughput is a measure. What is the definition of throughput?
Throughput is a measure of
Throughput
how
is
fast
a
we
measure
can
of how
access.
fast we can access
Yes, throughput is a measure of how fast we can actually send the data through a network. So what's the next one? What's the next factor? What is the
Latency.
latency, ma'am.
next? Latency. Okay. What are the four components of latency?
Propagation
Propagation
time,
time,
transmission
transmission
time,
processing delay, mean time.
Okay. What is latency is equal to?
Sum of
Propagation time,
Mm.
propagation
Anyone,
time plus
anyone of you.
transmission time,
transmission
queuing
time,
time, and
plus
processing
time,
delay.
processing
Processing?
Delay.
Delay, ma'am.
Mm. What is propagation time?
Distance by propagation
speed by propagation speed.
Okay, formula. And that's a formula. What's the definition?
Time required to travel a bit from source to destination.
travel from the source to destination.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What's the next one? Transmission time. What is transmission time? Give me the definition of transmission time. Yes. How do you measure transmission time? What is the formula?
Message
size by bandwidth.
Message size by bandwidth. Okay. What is queuing time?
The time needed for each intermediate or end device hold the message before it can be processed.
Okay. What is the last one? What's the last component, which is processing delay? What is processing delay? Time taken to process the information. Okay, right. Because it requires time, because maybe it needs to accumulate the resources needed to process the information. Maybe it got the chance of the processor, but still there is a delay because maybe other resources are not available at that time. Okay, so that is processing time. So summing up of that is processing delay, summing up of this propagation time and then transmission time and queuing time and processing delay all together, put together, it becomes the latency. What is bandwidth delay product?
Number of bits.
It defines the number of bits that can fill the link.
Okay, good. Both are two different measures, right? Bandwidth is a different performance metric of a link, and delay is also a different performance metric of a link. You take the product, and then you get one more factor that affects the network, which is bandwidth delay product, which defines the number of bits that can fill the link. Okay, right. So these are all the measures that we have seen yesterday. What is jitter? So we have one more performance measure, which is jitter. What is jitter? This is also another performance issue that is related to the delay. Okay. So especially we are talking about delay in terms of audio and video data that is being transmitted, where time is very sensitive. Okay, I gave you an example of wherein I am sending the data. Maybe I'm talking, it's a voice and a video message that you are receiving. And if there is more delay between the voice packets, then you will encounter a glitch, or you will encounter a difficulty ending up saying that my voice is not clear, or my voice is breaking up, or certain things. Okay, so if the delay is more, what happens is the voice and the video data's quality will drop down. So because time is very sensitive in terms of exchanging of certain these types of information. So that's it with the first unit. We have seen many topics in the first unit. We have seen the OSI layer. We have seen TCP/IP, which are the major portions of your first unit. Then we have moved into the physical layer, below the physical layer, which is the transmission medium. Whereas we understood what are guided transmission medium and unguided transmission medium, and various types of them in terms of their frequencies, and many things that we have seen in the first unit. We have also solved certain problems and give many other problems related to your performance in your assignments, or maybe we can take one more class for the tutorial wherein we'll be solving more problems like this. If you want to attempt GATE examination, for GATE examination is an examination which will help you to get into your master's program. So it's an national-wide competitive examination, especially for engineers to get into research or to get into masters. And this examination is a prestigious examination. If you qualify in this examination, you'll be getting stipend from the government, and also if you get good ranks, you'll be getting into the premium institutions to do your masters. And this examination will actually, you'll be given a rank, which will be an India-wide rank. And the problems that I have given yesterday, we were solving the performance type of problems and all that. So in the GATE examination, okay, in the competitive examination, if somebody wants to get into the public sector or such kind of examinations, computer networks is the core subject of computer science and engineering. There won't be engineering, okay, computer science and CSE engineering without CN subject. Like your data structures. Okay, so if you go to some other university in USA, or you go to some other university in Australia, or you go to Thailand, or you go to any across the globe, whatever universities you go, you will be having computer networks, data structures, operating systems. All these are the core of CSE. Apart from this, some other electives are added upon to actually bridge the gap between the academia and the industry. Now moving on to the next unit. So this is the next unit. So these are all the topics that are there in your second unit. So it's all about the data link layer. So the first topic here is the framing methods, and then you have error detection and error correction, which comes under, both comes under the concept of error control, and then the fundamentals of error detection and error correction. And then you have blocking code, then Hamming code, CRC, checksum. This CRC, cyclic redundancy control and all this. The CRC and checksum are your second experiment in your lab cycle. And then you have flow control and error control and wired LAN and wireless LAN and bridge and switch. So we'll be looking into what is meant by a bridge and what is meant by switch in this second unit. So now that knowing the concepts that are there in your second unit, we'll look into each and everything in detail now. So this is the data link layer. This is the slide I have put up in your unit 1 to explain what is data link layer. So you know this is the position where the data link layer will be. This is at layer 2, and above the this is above the physical layer, right? So this is above the physical layer, and below the network layer. It is in between the network and the physical layer. What is the responsibility of the data link layer is that it serves the network layer, and it takes the services from the physical layer. So these are all some of the responsibilities of the data link layer, and it is responsible for moving the frames from one hop to the next. And so here the responsibilities are the framing ones, which you can see in your syllabus. Okay, so the first responsibility is it was put as the first topic in your the second unit, which is the framing methods. And then you can see physical addressing, then you can see the flow control and error control and access control. So all that you can see in your syllabus in the second unit. Now let me just explain you like what is data link layer over here with a simple analogy of your human life. Say we are in Bhimavaram, okay, so say I'm in Bhimavaram, I'll give my example. Okay, so right now I'm in Bhimavaram, and say I want to go to Bombay. Okay, so I want to go to Mumbai. Okay, so this is Mumbai or Delhi or whatever. I am just having a destination. Okay, so this is the source and this is the destination, and I want to go from Bhimavaram to Mumbai. Okay, so what I did, I do not have time to actually plan for this travel. So I seeked help from the travel agency. So I have picked one travel agent, and I talked to the company and I asked them to fix my travel. Okay, so I asked them to fix my travel from Bhimavaram to Mumbai. So what they did is on the particular date of my travel, the travel agent have fixed my journey. Okay, so the travel agent have said like from Bhimavaram I'll be moving to Vijayawada, and from Gannavaram I'll be taking a flight to Mumbai. Okay, so from Bhimavaram to Vijayawada I'll be going in the car, okay, or a taxi. And from Vijayawada, from the Gannavaram airport, what I'll do is I'll be taking a flight to Mumbai. Okay, so here you can say that it is a flight to Mumbai. So this is what the travel agent have planned for me. So there is a halt in between. So I am halting in Vijayawada. So this is not my final destination, but still I'm taking a hop. Okay, so from Bhimavaram I'm going to Vijayawada, and from Vijayawada I'm going to Mumbai. So what happened is at the source, so this is at the source, so Bhimavaram is the source. Now the travel agent have come to me because I didn't plan for the taxi, and this is not my own car. I have requested the travel agent to actually fix my journey. So the travel agent comes up to me, and he brings the car to me, and what he does is, so the travel agent comes to me, okay. So the travel agent comes to me, and the travel agent will bring a car to me, or else he'll say like where I need to board the car and where I need to get into the car and all that. He gives the information. So now I have, and the travel agent leaves, okay, and now I have got into the car. I traveled from Bhimavaram to Vijayawada, and now the car goes off. Now I have different mode of transport from here. So from Bhimavaram to Vijayawada, I have a mode of transport in the car. Now from Vijayawada to Mumbai, I have the mode of transport which is flight. Okay. So here what happens is I don't know what to do in Vijayawada because I do not have the flight ticket. So I'm waiting in the airport, or I got down of the car, and again another member of the travel agency. Okay, so with the same travel agency, what happened? One more person have come to me, So I'm here, right? So this is me. So I'm here in Vijayawada waiting for the travel agent to come and give me my flight tickets. Okay. So now the travel agent comes to me, gives me the flight tickets, and then I'll take the flight, and then I'll reach to Mumbai. Okay. So my destination is Mumbai. So in case if from Mumbai I want to go to Kuwait, or I want to go to some other place, or to London or whatever, again what happens is at this particular hop, my destination is London, say. So from here again my travel agent comes, gives me the other ticket, which again will take me from Mumbai to London. Okay, so here again the transport is a flight transport. So like this. Okay, so here understanding this analogy of a travel from one place to another, if I just apply it to what is the it to the network or the OSI model. So here me traveling from the source to the destination is the data over here. And then the travel agent that I'm talking about is the network layer. Okay, so the network layer is sending the data from one hop to the other. Okay, so the travel agent here is the network layer. Okay, and the network layer is giving some unique identity. Now you can see that the travel agent recognized me somehow, and one of the members of the travel agent, maybe I'm meeting them for the first time, but they recognized me, right? So in Vijayawada also there may be many people waiting for some other travel agents as well, but what happened, the travel agent correctly came to me and he identified me. Okay, so you can understand that to be the IP address, how the travel agents are identifying that you are the one and we have to give the flight tickets to you. How they are identifying it is through the IP address. IP address is the internet protocol address, as I said, which is like version 6 or version 4. We are using version 4, which will be having 4 components separated by a dot. Okay, so that is an IP address based, because IP address is the logical addressing given to each and every device, and the IP address is same throughout. Okay, so there is no change in the IP address. I'm not changing anything over here. I am me myself, but I am traveling from this. Okay. So that is the network layer, and you can see that the travel agent recognized me through my IP address, and also here in Vijayawada the travel agent identified me again through my IP address. So the IP address is same, and who is recognizing me and who is diverting me from one place to another is the network layer. Now, what is the data link layer over here? The data link layer here is the mode of travel that I am applying. Okay, so you can see that at this particular point of journey between Bhimavaram to Vijayawada, what I did, I went through a car. Okay, so this can be a wireless connection, or it can be a wire connection, or it can be an, it can be an Ethernet connection, or whatever connection it is, I am going through that. Okay, so the data is going through this one. So who will take the responsibility of the frame or the data to move from one hop to the next hop is the data link layer. So here the data link layer takes the responsibility of moving me from one place to another place, and from this place again my mode of travel is different. Maybe I'm going on in a wireless mode from a car from Vijayawada to Mumbai. So here again the data link layer comes into the picture and takes me from Vijayawada to Mumbai. Okay, so this is what is the responsibility of the data link layer. I think with this analogy, you just understood it more clearly and more in depth. Is it clear to everyone? What is data link layer responsibility with this analogy?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so as you understood, so let us just look into the definition of the data link layer. Data link layer is responsible for moving the frames. As I told you, like the data link layer is responsible for the car over here is responsible for moving me from Bhimavaram to Vijayawada. And how the car person have put me inside the car, like he will not give, he will not allow anybody to enter his car, right? So he allowed me because my IP address is valid IP address, which is set, which is given by the network agent. The network agent said like, check her Aadhaar card or the PAN card or the passport for authentication, like that. Okay, so the car person looked into my information and found it valid, and then only he has asked me to enter the car, and he took me over from Bhimavaram to Vijayawada. Okay, so this is the point. Okay, right. Now the data link layer is responsible for moving the frame. The frames hold the data. So it is like a container which will be holding the information. So here I am the information which is traveling from Bhimavaram to Mumbai. Okay, so just imagine it to me, be traveling from here to there. Okay, so the frame from one hop to the next. As I told you, like there won't be any direct hop from the source to the destination. In the middle, there will be many hops wherein it passes through many networks and then reaches directly reaches to the destination. So this is regarding the data link layer. So now that we have understood what is the data link layer, so the data link layer will be transporting the information, or it will be moving the information in the format of frames, so from one hop to the next hop. Okay, not from the source to the destination. I'm not saying from one hop, directly from the source to the destination, but one hop to the next. So let us look into some other responsibilities or some other functions of the data link layer. The two main functions of the data link layer are the data link control and the media access control. So these are the two main functions. Okay, you can also give the responsibilities in detail, how I have given in the previous slide, or you can just tell in a nutshell saying that data link layer is the main two functionalities are the data link control and the media access control. Okay, so which we say MAC. And the data link control includes framing. Okay, so what is data link control? So it includes framing, flow and error control, and then software implementation protocols that provide smooth and reliable transmission of frames between nodes. Okay, so this software implemented protocols, they can be like each to implement the data link layer, we need protocols. And you know what is a protocol? It is set of rules that need to be implemented in software to run the two nodes involved in exchange at the data link layer. So now what are the two types of protocols that the data link layer requires is that one is we are assuming that the network is noiseless. So this cannot happen. Okay, so the noiseless channel, nowadays you cannot find a noiseless channel. Okay, but from the noiseless channel, the algorithms have evolved. Okay, so first thing is an assumption that we are saying that there are noiseless channel. Definitely there will be interference and there will be noise included in any signal, but we are assuming that there will be noiseless channel. The protocols are the simplest protocol. There is no name for the protocol. Okay, so the basic protocol is called as the simplest protocol, and the second type of protocol that we'll be using in the noiseless channel is the stop and wait protocol. And in the noisy channel, you have three protocols. These are the protocols we are using, and noisy channels are the ones, any channel is noisy anyway. Okay, right. And at least a little noise will be there in any of the channel. The first one is ARQ, and the next one is go back and ARQ, and the selective repeat ARQ. Okay, so these are the three types of noisy channels. And what is framing? Framing is how to organize the bits that are carried by the physical layer. Okay, right. So let us look into framing now and try to understand. Okay, framing. Data link layer need to pack the bits into frame. So it needs to pack the bits into frame. Each frame must be different from other. Okay, so each frame must be different from other, having its own unique number or sequence number and all that. So no two frames should be identical. And now there you might get a point like, why not put everything in a whole frame? Okay, so why do we require to send the message in cut pieces? Okay, why not send the entire message as is in a single frame? So I answered that question here. the whole message can be packed into a single frame. Yes, that is possible. You can send it in a single frame, but what will happen is it makes the frame large. Now the difficulty or the problems or the drawbacks that you get when the frame is large is that there will be flow control and error control will become inefficient. So that's the reason why what we'll do is we'll try to divide the frames into manageable portions. The whole message can be packed into single frame, but if a single frame, then you get that problem. Another problem is that what happens is, say that you made it as a single frame and you have transmitted it. Now the destination got a wrong, I mean a corrupted frame. The source have put all the message in a single frame and it has sent it, pushed it towards the destination. Now at the destination, what happened is there is a destination recognized that it got a corrupted frame, meaning that there is a single bit error in the entire frame. So now what the destination will do is it will request that ARQ request the source to retransmit the frame again. So now again the entire frame need to be sent to the destination. Again, that will is not advisable in a network. So this is another problem. So that's the reason what we do is the whole message is divided into some bits. Okay, so that process is called as framing. What is the process? The process of packing the bits into frame. Okay, you can send all the bits in a single frame, but as I told you, all these problems will arise, like the flow control and error control inefficiency starts popping up, and large packets anyway take long time to reach to the destination. So all these inefficiencies will creep in if you're making the entire message to be in a single frame. So that's the reason you need to cut it. Okay, so you need to make pieces of the entire original message, entire message, and then put everything in small frames and then transmit it. Okay, now what will happen here is if you are transmitting them in cut pieces like this, if one frame is arrived corrupted, then only that frame need to be sent back. Okay, so you needn't send the entire message back again to the destination. You can send only the frame that is corrupted. Okay, so that's again another advantage that you get if you are sending the frames in bits. So what is framing? ఇప్పుడు అర్థమైంది కదా. సో ఫ్రేమింగ్ అంటే ఏంటంటే, సో ద ఒరిజినల్ మెసేజ్ని ముక్కలుగా చేసుకొని మనము సెండర్కి డెస్టినేషన్, సెండర్ నుంచి డెస్టినేషన్కి పంపించటము ఫ్రేమింగ్. Okay, so the process of packing the bits into frames and sending it to the destination is called as framing. So that's a definition. Okay, so framing is the organizing, how to organize the bits that are carried by the physical layer, and also framing in the data link layer, okay, separates a message from one source to a destination. So each and every frame, so maybe different destinations are there, like the same source have to send different data to different destinations. So since the frame will be having its own the similar, I mean these frames are for the same destination, so you'll be putting some sequence over here. Okay, so say double one represents the same destination. So if you're having double one, it means that it's for the same destination, and if you are putting 1 2 or 1 0, then it means this is for the other destination. So the framing also helps in grouping the messages that are sent to different destinations. So that is again another reason why we will be doing framing in the data link layer. So we'll be adding in the framing, what we'll do is we'll also add the source and the destination address in the frames. Okay, so that it reaches to the right destination. And this is one of the very important points here. This is like frames can be fixed or variable size. Now that we understood what is framing, let us now understand what is fixed size and variable size framing. Okay, moving on to the next slide. So you can see that fixed size framing. All this is fixed size framing, and what it is like we don't require because it's fixed size, you don't need to give boundaries, like this is the first frame, this is the second frame. So you needn't give some indication that this is the first flag, the first frame, and this is the second frame. Because everything is of fixed size, the destination will know. Like if I'm saying that each and every frame will contain 8 characters, then only 8 characters will be sent. Okay, so the if the frame is containing 7 characters, then the destination will understand that the frame have arrived corrupted. It will request for the other frame, and so it knows like what is the start and ending of the frame. The size itself can be the delimiter. So separately, you do not require a delimiter to add into the frame. And that's a fixed size one. And example are ATM wide area networks, which uses frames of fixed size called cells. Okay, so here in ATM WAN, the frame is called as a cell, and this is an example network where fixed size framing is used. And the next kind of framing, another type of framing, is the variable size framing. Variable size framing are prevalent in the LANs. Okay, so they are prevalent in LANs. And because there is variable size, meaning that each and every frame will be having different sizes. So because each and every frame is having different sizes, we don't know like what is the beginning of the frame and what is the ending of the frame. So we need a way to define the end of the frame and the beginning of the next frame. Okay, so what are the two approaches that are used to do this variable size framing is that the first approach is character oriented approach, and the second one is bit oriented approach. In the character oriented approach, you will be doing byte stuffing, okay, to mark the uh, uh, data, to separate the data from the flag. In case if the data is same, the same pattern appears in the original data, then you will be doing byte stuffing, or else you also call it as character stuffing. So now bit oriented approach, wherein you will be doing bit stuffing. So we already have seen what is meant by bit stuffing and character stuffing in the previous lab sessions, but still I'll just give you some points. So this is character oriented approach, and so in the character oriented approach, data to be carried are 8 bits characters from the coding system such as ASCII. Now nobody is using ASCII, and now all the, because different languages are used to communicate between the source and the destination, and all the characters are included in Unicode. So this is an example wherein we are giving it as an ASCII code, but nowadays all the data is encoded using Unicode. Unicode is a 16-bit data representation coding scheme. Anyway, let us get into ASCII. So data to be carried are defined are 8-bit characters from a coding system such as ASCII. If it is Unicode, it is 2 bytes. Now the header carries. What do the header carry? So you can see the diagram over here. So which is the frame in the character oriented protocol. So this is a frame in the character oriented protocol. So you can see there is a flag in the beginning and flag at the end, because it's a variable length protocol, a variable or character oriented protocol, which is a type of variable size framing. So you require something to mark the beginning and ending of the frame. So these are the flags that are added, and then you do have a header. So the purpose of the header is which carries the source and the destination address, and other control information is put in the header. So what is header? Header is part of the frame which will hold the source and the destination address and other control protocols. In the similar way, at the end you can see that there is a trailer. It is not tailor and tail kadu, trailer antamu. So trailer carries error detection and error correction redundant bits. So apart from that, you simply will have the data part. Okay, so this is the data from the upper layer to the data that it has received from the upper layer. What is the upper layer of the data link layer?
Network layer.
Network layer, ma'am.
Network layer. So from the network layer, it receives the message. So the same message, it is adding some header and trailer and also some flags to it. Okay, right. To separate to separate one frame from the next 8-bit flag is added at the beginning and at the end of the frame. You can also add 2 bytes only, but this is the basic understanding. So we are just looking into adding 1 byte. So the flags could be selected to be any character not used in the text communication. So generally we'll make it a point that we are not using the text characters that are there in the text communication, but sometimes they may appear. So flag composed of protocol dependent special characters signals the start or the end of the frame. And it is popular when only text was exchanged by the data link layers. So in the character oriented approach is generally used when only text was exchanged by the data link layers. Unlike your bit oriented, wherein you can just see this point over here. In the bit oriented, I said like in the bit oriented protocol, the data section of the frame is a sequence of bits, okay, to be interpreted by the upper layer as a text, graphic, and audio and video and so on. So bit oriented protocols are mostly suited for, they are also suited for text, graphic, audio and video. But coming to the character oriented protocols, this is most popular with the text exchange between the source and the destination. And the pattern used as the flag can be part of the information. So this is one kind of problem that we are trying to identify by using a flag. So the flag can be part of the pattern or the original data. Okay, so the pattern that you're using for the flag can be there or can exist in the information. So recall what I have told you. I'm just brushing on the concept. Recall what you have done. You also have done the lab session, so it must be easy for you to understand it. And receiver will think it has reached the end of the flag. So that's what we have seen, that in case if the same pattern as a flag appears in the original data, then the receiver may have a misunderstanding that it is the end of the flag. To fix this issue, byte stuffing strategy was added to the character-oriented framing. So what is byte stuffing? So this is the definition of the byte stuffing. Byte stuffing is the process of adding 1 extra byte whenever there is a flag or escape character in the text. Okay, so this is a frame in a character-oriented, and this is an example where you can see the byte stuffing has been done. Okay, so in byte stuffing, a special byte is added to the data section of the frame when there is a character with the same pattern as the flag. The data section is stuffed with the extra byte. So that's why we are saying byte stuffing, and this byte is usually an escape character. Not only escape character, you can also use the DLE that I have told you. So I don't want to repeat the same thing. I want to give you something extra to your knowledge. That's the reason why I have taken escape character. Okay, I want to give you something extra. So which has predefined bit pattern. Okay, right. And whenever receiver encounters escape character, it removes it from the data section and treats the next character as part of the data, not a delimiter. Anyway, we know the concept. Okay, so conceptual knowledge is there. You also have implemented it. Now imagine that this is the data that it received from the network layer. So what happened, it has received it, and it is actually now added a frame, it created a frame by adding the flag and also the header and also the trailer and also the flag at the end. Now to the data part, what it is doing is, since there is a flag in the original data and escape in the original data, it will add escape to the beginning of the flag, meaning that then the flag is part of the data, and also this escape is there, so it's adding one more escape over here. So whenever the receiver sees this, he will think that this he will discard this and he will keep this because that's the indication saying that escape is part of the data. So this is how the byte stuffing happens and the creation of the frame happens. Okay, so what it will do, so this is the original data that it is receiving from the network layer. After receiving the original data, now it is creating a frame. So it has created a variable size frame by adding the flag and a header in the beginning and trailer and flag at the end. After that, it looks into the data to find out whether there are any patterns similar to the flag. if there are any patterns similar to the flag, it will add a delimiter over here, ESC, to mark that the next character is part of the original data. So here, based on the original data, 2 bytes are stuffed. So 2 extra bytes are added into the original data. Now this is how the frame is transmitted, and this happens at the destination. So this is at the destination. So the frame received, so it receives the frame and looks for any escape sequences are there in the original data. So there is an escape, so it will discard it, keep the flag. It will there is another escape encountered here, and there is some flag over here. So it will discard this, keep this ESC in the original data. So this is what is called as unstuffing, and finally this is given to the upper layer at the destination. Okay, so this is what is called as character oriented protocols, which are an example of variable size framing. And inside the variable size framing, because of the drawbacks that the flag may appear in the original data, we'll be doing byte stuffing. So what is byte stuffing? Byte stuffing is the process of adding 1 extra byte whenever there is a flag or escape character in the text. Right. So I hope the class is clear to everyone.
Yes.